Welcome. These will be my thoughts on Amy's Dead End Dreamhouse, Season 1, Episode 1, Total Career Collapse. The episode is rated TVMA, so will this video be? There will be spoilers, at least for this episode, possibly for the rest of... But as I record this, a total of 6 have aired. So, yeah, I am just... If you continue watching, be aware it's possible I'll spoil some of the later ones here as well. I mean, if you want a quick, if you've watched this one and you liked it, I recommend the remaining 5 for sure. And yeah, I really fucking love this entire show so far. So I I have mentioned the show in other videos, but it took me a little while to figure out for sure if I wanted to make videos specifically on it. But I really want more people to watch this show because it really deserves a lot of attention. So I think I will just very briefly go over the reasons that I didn't immediately... I could have made videos on this when they first... I watched the episodes fairly shortly after they first came out, more or less. And the thing is, I don't remember if I, as a kid, watched Pee-wee's Playhouse. I believe is described as one of the main inspirations here. I definitely did, as a kid, watch kids' TV, but I barely remember. So I can definitely confirm, I've seen some videos of Pee-wee's Playhouse, clips from that show. I could definitely see how there's inspiration. And I recognize a bunch of the tropes, though some more from cultural osmosis. But yeah, I really do love this show. So with those caveats out of the way, it is Women's History Month. Not every episode I do is going to be on Women's History Month. I guess I should be able to do at least one more before the month is out. I will continue doing, right now the plan is to do about one of these per week until I've done all 6, and I think I will do a spoiler-free review by then, especially if no more episodes, have been uploaded. It's a little unclear if she is making more, Megan Mayfish, I mean, or the entire group making these. But yes, so I'm going to talk about some of the issues facing women and which issues women face specifically, and I am also trying to make sure that the recommendation for YouTube that I make in almost all my videos, except for these days, except for when I forget, is of a female YouTuber, and this is one of those cases where I can actually make it relevant even. Yeah, I recommend... I keep forgetting if I've watched everything Tessa Violet or not. I'm afraid my wrists are really, really sore right now, so I'm not going to be checking. I'm not going to be looking basically anything up. But everything I've watched of hers, I thought was really, really great. And yeah, recently, she's made several that just, yeah, I really admire her willingness to share deeply personal things and her ability, as I appreciate many creatives have, of taking these experiences and looking at reality and making it easier to digest for the rest of us, and yeah, I guess if I was to point to a specific, she very recently did, I think it is just called The Cleaning Song, which is just very charming. I try to do that myself in my own life, to take something that it's kind of like, we got to do it, that's just part of being an adult. It's adulting. Yeah, and making it not seem so, like such a chore, when literally, cleaning up is one of the classic chores. So I am going to try to keep this more or less chronological. So, right, I guess I will also just briefly note one more reason why it took me a while to get around to doing these videos. Some of the problems here are not really ones that I've personally dealt with so much. Yeah, but I'll do my very best. As the butler in Dinner for One said. Yes. Let's see. I really love that one of the first jokes is an actual fourth wall break. Like, it starts with just, Amy seemingly doing the show, Amy's Dead in Dreamhouse, and then she's like, okay, did we get that? Okay, now I have to actually work, which, doesn't that technically mean she has 3 jobs? But yeah. And her calling it a house, Dreamhouse, and Quake pointing out it's a studio apartment, no millennial can afford a house. And that is also, I quite enjoy how the names get, like, by the time they get to Quake, it's like you could practically sense a writer's room for a TV show for kids throwing the hands in the air and saying, like, listen, let's just break for lunch. I don't care. We'll call the snake Quake. I mean, the TV is kind of clever. Mike the microwave. Cindy the cinder block is starting to push it, but Quake the snake is just, let's just take 5, please. And yeah, confronting this very harsh reality that, today a lot of people do have to work multiple jobs. I'm extremely fortunate that I have never had to. I live in a country, here in Denmark, where we don't require people to do that. We do have much more of a social safety net. Yeah, Amy points that out late in the episode. Right, that's, one of the big reasons that I both watched this show to begin with and wanted to do videos on it. I have been a fan of Maggie Mae Fish since she was on Cracked. Very important that you note that I do end that with I'm not saying she's done crack. But yeah, as soon as I heard they were doing this, it was actually one of the selling points on me finally getting Nebula. This Identities and Dracula's ex-girlfriend were the main. I've watched other stuff, but it's it's Lindsay Ellis's new stuff. And when someone that I follow on YouTube makes a Nebula original, or is it? I think that's what they call them. The ones that do not go on YouTube. I watch those. Anyway, I knew that she would do amazing here. She's already proven herself immensely talented writer and performer, and this is probably the best thing that she's done that I've seen. I don't know. I forget if she has a Patreon with Patreon exclusives. I'm afraid I'm not really in a situation to particularly support people on Patreon. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that I'd love to be able to support, but anyway, yeah, that does bring us to the the fact that Amy is not just. Oh, right. I think that's when this is the part in the episode where we get the theme song, which is just fantastic. It really, like, as the first time I heard it, immediately, it's like so many memories came flooding back. That is the one thing I remember from a bunch of kids shows. These theme tunes that you just could not get back out of your head, and the way, like, the entire aesthetic throughout the show, it's not just in this opening theme tune where it is contrasting this, kids friendly TV aesthetic and these adult problems, and it feels like the kind of show that we millennials grew up on, but it's actually dealing with the problems we're facing now, and thus commenting on how, stuff like this can be kind of junk food, which, to be clear, I'm not saying the show is. I'm saying the shows that it's parodying can be, especially when viewed by adults who are nostalgic. It is very much just this escape from the harsh realities. And yeah, like this, there's so much meta going on here. It's genuinely kind of unreal. And yeah, I think, but yeah, all the lyrics from the theme song and the way that it points out, TV, she just stares and stares and stares, because that is like, that's, it's one of those where it goes to both our childhood memories, being parked in front of the TV, was it Uncle Babysitter? Is that what it's, I think that's what they call it in Cable Guy. It's been a while since I watched that movie. And the but yeah, both as a kid and as an adult, just zoning out. What's that, tune in, turn on, tune in, drop out? Oh wait, that's specifically for like acid, isn't it? But I feel like that was yeah, it's kind of a TV, it's using TV as a metaphor, I think. Anyway, but yeah, and the, Mike the microwave, because we eat way too much microwaved food, because like could have been an oven, could have been Ollie the oven or something, but Owen the oven, that's even, sometimes I need to think before I speak. And as a, I feel old, 2 decades long fan of MST3K, it is great to see Bill Corbett, or rather here, here. And is of course also no surprise. Both the funny and the dramatic stuff that he can do that exceedingly well. I think that might pretty much, let's see. I gotta say, the first time I saw it, I thought that Cindy jumping in through the car window was gonna crash the car, and then it does crash shortly after, but not specifically because of that. But that's also just like, fuck me. That's a seriously scary situation, and to play it so much as like, because again, that's a thing that you have in a lot of kids shows. Like, it's stuff where, when you're a kid, you're like, yay, and then, if you watch it back as an adult, you're like, oh my fucking god, why would you put that in front of a kid? That's a horrifying situation in real life. That's like a nightmare scenario. So yeah, very fun. And yeah, crashing the car into a brick wall. She hit the wall, and yeah, the wall takes up the entire road. There is no way around the breakdown, which is okay because there's beauty in the breakdown. And I think that's when, yeah, so we see some more of the work. And can we just take a second to appreciate how goddamn fucking pitch perfect the corpo speak is? Like, oh my god, genuinely impossibly well written. Like, every single, the metaphors, the specific, the part where she says, let's circle back so we can square this off for the trapezoid. Like, okay, now you're just naming shapes. And the thing with the, I'm sure that'll do numbers for clients. It reminded me of the Weird Al song. Let's see if I can recall the title, because once again, not looking things up right now. Mission Statement, years old by now. I don't want to think about exactly how old, because I still remember it coming out like it was yesterday. But I think that, and yeah, and the appliances realizing like this is a really fucked up situation. I think it's TV who says like, what? And then, suddenly they, she didn't switch, so it was heard that she's working for both sides, which is also one of those things like today, it is important to find out who to support and then really do what you can to make sure, like there's so many progressive causes that need help to make the world a better place, but sometimes it can be difficult to figure out what exactly, and capitalism, yeah, it's so difficult. Like there, the saying is there is no ethical consumption under capitalism. And yeah, and of course, because it's a kids show, the show within the show is, it's crochet, because like I feel like, if this was not filtered through that lens, it would probably be that she is both pumping oil and like maybe helping raise money for an activist group that's against it, or something along those lines. And I think that might more or less cover, because that's the thing, if you want, yeah, there's a lot of money in doing the wrong thing under capitalism, and obviously I don't condone it. I appreciate that for some it's just they don't really have a choice, it's the only job they can get, kind of thing. And I think, right, the intro with the various characters introducing is also just so perfect. The way they'll turn and smile at the camera. I remember that from the kids shows. And then like one of them is Mr. Shadow, and it's like, I'm sorry, what? What is going on there? And it's just such, yeah. And and Tessa Violet, the musical guest, gets in on the action of seeming overworked, and that is also, yeah, I think it's one of her best songs. Knowing this is not enough is enough. Fantastic. Listen to a bunch of times after this, and it is also on YouTube. If yeah, let's see. I think that might bring us to the. But yeah, and the part where they all realize, oh no, she didn't switch off, and they're like, several of them are screaming, and then it cuts to Mike, and he goes, I'm screaming too, and then it cuts to Cindy, and there's just no movement and no sound, and it's just, I kind of fucking love Cindy the Cinder Block. It's just the such a, yeah, the part in the intro where it's like, oh, come on, Cindy, jump into bed with the host of the show, your best friend. And then you see like the look on, Amy's face is like, oh, yep, that cinder block, right, because again, like some of these TV shows for kids, like it is genuinely fucked up what the kids are supposed to take as like, oh, no, this is a good thing, and yeah. I think, yeah, so and I also really love that she's using an avatar on the Zoom call, and she has to reassure them, oh, we can continue, I'm not a cat. And yeah, Mr. Shadow, shows up, smashes the laptops, and does it specifically over Cindy when, I mean, there is a table right there, it's like, because later in the episode, Cindy almost acts like a pet more so that is a really fucked up thing to do, Mr. Shadow. I appreciate that he does give her protection glasses. And, the thing about, like, do it outside. Don't do it in front of my appliances. The equivalent of, like, please don't, can you please wait until I can get the kids away so they don't have to watch as you repossess some of the items that we own because I couldn't pay my bills. That sort of thing, so, yeah. And this show really does do a great job criticizing capitalism. And yeah, I like when Quake said, proletariat, because, like, yeah, that is, appropriate. And the thing about, like, wait, oh, I'm sorry, that was the wrong inflection, wasn't it? Low inflection, end of sentence. I mean, it could have been worse, Quake. You could have put the emphasis on the wrong syllable. And I think that's when she stands up from the couch and is like, there's only one thing left to do. And that's where we get one of the really dark jokes of this show, when Mike says, don't jump. And she's like, I'm not gonna jump. She's not even like, okay, I won't, or like, she genuinely was not at all thinking like that, but and then he's like, oh, you're not there yet. Which, you get, like, it's an unpleasant reality, but yeah, struggling under capitalism leads to a lot of depression, and sometimes that leads to, if not suicidal actions, at least suicidal thoughts. So yeah, I think that might, right, I forget exactly which point in the episode, but seeing Amy shout fuck was very funny, considering that this is about, she's supposed to be like a peewee or something, and just, like, imagining, I mean, I wouldn't rule out the actor might have done it, and Paul Rubens, RIP, might have done it under, playing other roles or something, but seeing Pee Wee Herman actually, although I appreciate maybe it's not that much of a stretch, because there was that, War on Drugs video where he talks about, and in character, doing the voice and everything. I forget which drug, but yeah, that was a trip. Your friendly reminder that the War on Drugs was started to punish political opponents and, attain profit. It was not about protecting people. I think that does bring us to the, I mean, obviously, we don't want kids doing drugs. Ideally, no one would even feel the need for drugs, but the war on drugs is not the right way to accomplish people not doing drugs. I think that brings us to, then she takes out the fucking, oh my god, I remember those. I forget exactly what it's called, but the laser blasty thing, from the video game, and yeah, and her swinging it around, and the way it just goes on, like, I think from the start of the swinging until she stops swinging is maybe like a full minute or something. It's and yeah, I totally remember kids show gags going on for way too long, and it's just like, do adults think kids like this? Okay, I guess some kids do, but I remember thinking, like, this is just ridiculous. Anyway, and I was not the only one. Other kids my age back when I was a kid, which made them kids my age. Anyway, the but yeah, and then Mike is like, no, one-track mind, isn't he? And then, no, she's gonna go job hunting, and that genuinely is such a fun, because job hunting, not fun, but it's a kids show for adults, so they're making it fun in a way. I think this is when they do the commercial break, if I recall correctly, and that's also just so perfect. TV saying, "I am the only one who loves you," because that's, again, like, it has been studied. It is not good for kids to spend too much time in front of a screen. It doesn't have to be a TV. I also really appreciate such fucking analog TV too. Like, I don't even, yeah. Um, let's see. I think that might bring us to. Oh, and obviously, love that they use different animation styles on the so TV is literally like 2D animation, and yeah, a TV with eyes. And her face is literally on the screen of an actual TV. Quake the Snake being done with this kind of traditional puppeteering. There's like at least one person behind the couch operating the body and or mouth. I'm not entirely sure if it's more than one person for that. I know that varies. And the yeah, Mike is stop motion with eyes and teeth put on as the microwave door opens and closes, and then Cindy mostly does not move, but then occasionally, yeah, like is dragged. I'm guessing wire work, dragged across the floor and such. And right, the animation style for the intro bit is also completely perfect. There's at least one more thing yeah, right. That brings us to the actual ad, and that's also something that, yeah, I'd like to think I wouldn't have done it. I don't think I know anyone who did do it, but yeah, like, I remember kids saying, why can't we drink the lava lamp contents, and the idea that someone went ahead and made that product and made fish doing the, oh, sorry, fucked up there we go. I should move less. I should keep my hands off camera so that the autofocus doesn't get fucked up. Anyway, yeah, her, drinking from it and like struggling to keep it down, and the whole, oh god, yeah. And they also did an absolutely perfect job on, like, she really does look like one of the kids or teens in one of those ads, and she nails the voice and the face acting completely perfectly. And I think that does right. I like that they show an actual volcano and lava in the, as if it, like, my god, hopefully there's not actual lava inside the drinkable lava lamp. Jesus. And I think, yeah, and then, after the ad, TV going, "I knew you'd be back. They always come back, just because that, again, like, it's an ad break. Like, hypothetically, you could stop watching TV, or at the bare minimum change to another channel, but so often we ended up sticking through, and yeah, them drawing attention to that. It's that's the thing. Like, the show is funny, but it also really strikes a nerve. And yeah, the entire scene of the job hunt is so much fun. I think the game they're referencing is Duck Hunt, where the you would miss a shot, because of course you would, and then the dog would, like, struggle to not laugh at you, like hold up a paw to cover its mouth. Yeah. And let's see, yeah, the point made that, well, was it a job or was it just an unpaid internship? And at one point, and yeah, like, Amy straight up has a conversation with Cindy, but we don't hear a word from Cindy. It just, sometimes the camera will be on Cindy and Amy talks as if Cindy just said something or sneezed or that kind of thing, you know. And then we have the, what's it called? The briefcase full of money, you know, the idea of like, oh, you know, here's potential for you to get a lot of money, which that is a thing you gotta watch out for online. And it turns out to be a scam, you know, and they stole her data. And she fell for the scam because she literally, you know, fell, ended up on the ground. I love that it is like, you know, so she's job hunting. Like, I mean, hypothetically, you could have filmed in like a forest and just superimposed in the flying job, you know, props. But instead, it's like so clearly a studio that it's filmed in, you know, like just, again, that I do remember from kids shows, sitting there, even as like a 7-year-old being like, okay, I guess we don't have a budget for exterior photography. I mean, I didn't use those words, but yeah. Because like some of the time it's like, yeah, this is still just the studio though. And I also really love the analog nature of the blow dart that knocks her out, you know, because like she puts her hand just barely off screen and then moves it back onto her neck, and then there's a dart, and it's like, yeah, you know, as soon as her hand was off screen, someone put a dart between her fingers, and then she just moves it really fast. So, you know, again, cheesy kind of, you know, kids TV show effect that even some kids see through, and certainly adults. Yeah, very nicely done. And I think that, yeah, I also really appreciate like the thing about, you know, we stole your, yeah, they stole her data. That's a joke for today. That is not the kind of thing you would have in a TV show, you know, 20, 30 years ago, when we, you know, people wouldn't have even understood the wording of that, even though, you know, I mean, stealing data, well, let's see, was that around back then, or was it, I'm not entirely sure. I guess it might go all the way back to the start of the internet, but it wasn't something that was being talked about as much, you know. I think that does, you know, data privacy today is a major concern. Ever so often I see, you know, leftist YouTubers do an ad for, I'm not going to mention the exact brand because I don't, you know, I'm just not. But, you know, there's at least one service out there that is like for data protection. I'm not using it. I have no idea if it works. Please don't, you know, like if you're considering getting it, do your, you know, do research on it before you get it, because every so often something like that will actually be much worse. You know, it's just a different way of getting your data and selling it. Now, I think, does that bring us to, but yeah, so, you know, she goes home, and then we get the other break in the episode, and I also really appreciate that, you know, they didn't have to do that. They don't actually, you know, on Nebula, they don't do actual ads, but they, you know, in the format here, they wanted to reference those ad breaks. And yeah, so the second one is the, you know, the talk about how hard we're expected to work, and a lot of people work. And that, again, I'm extremely fortunate. I have not been pushed into anything resembling that intense of, you know, a situation. But I do understand from people who have that this is incredibly accurate, you know. And yeah, the thing about, you know, you never quit, even when you probably should. And I fucking love the little gag of like, okay, close your eyes. And then the text, you know, if you can read this, you didn't close your eyes. And, you know, deep breathing and this thing, like, so, you know, it sounds at first on the surface as like an actual, you know, what do they call those again? Wellness minute, taking a minute to, you know, hopefully you know what I mean. And then, it becomes, oh, this, criticism of capitalism further. And the, the part near, right, and the point about, like, everybody else in your family's on vacation, and they specify, which, let's see, which Nashville it was, or something like that, and then after a while, the way it's describing things, it's like it's talking to a hamster that understands English, which is such a fantastic way to criticize capitalism, because that's it. Like, you are a cog in a machine, or if, they grant that you have sentience, a hamster in a wheel, And we even hear the what's it called? Suckling softly, the subtitles say. Alliteration. And I like the college humor alliteration. Anyway, then let's see. I think, yeah. So yeah, Amy comes back, and she had to have the neck brace on, and we get another joke about death as she mimics, oh wait, no, that's more like it. Drawing her thumb across her neck. And yeah, then she's like, okay, last chance, maybe I can be a male person. And the letter floating off again, this kind of, what's it called again, magical realism kind of thing of a bunch of these kids TV shows. And then Carrie, the new male person, shows up and is like, that was the job that Amy was hoping for, and she starts like wailing, and then Carrie's like, nice to meet you. Reminded me of the bit in UHF where Al meets Fran Drescher. And then we have the thing about the oh right, also the fact that they crocheted the lock, which is also, I don't know, the first thing it made me think of was like if you put a boot on a car, I think, is that what they call it, where so you can't drive unless you're Homer Simpson and more determined than thinking clearly. And the thing about, like, well, you can't come through the door, so fire escape, yeah, but you have to go around. And then she's like, oh, they are like, sorry, Carrie the male person is like, there's a bunch of wires back there, and has to pass in front of the camera. I'm sorry, I am not familiar with this person. I do not know their pronouns, so I'm going to go with they, them, which I have understood to be neutral for, yes. So from what I've heard, if it's only if you know that they prefer not to go by they, them, or if someone is like transphobic and like screaming irrationally about how they don't use pronouns, which is like, no, you do. Even including gendered pronouns, because not all pronouns are gendered. But did you see the one about there's someone saying, God doesn't use pronouns, and then proceeds to immediately gender God as him. Anyway, the great bit with Carrie talking to Amy, and also, Amy saying, I'm nothing, I'm not real anymore, I'm just furniture, and then all the furniture going, hey, and Cindy is even included, but we don't hear Cindy as usual. But yeah, that is how, capitalism makes you feel if you are not doing well enough at work. I saw a really solid analysis, I'm afraid I forget the YouTuber's name, of Franz Kafka's Metamorphosis, I believe it's called, that goes into how that story from what I understand from that analysis, is criticism of capitalism. I'm afraid I haven't read that one. I would like to read more Kafka. I fucking love The Trial. Now, not The Trial, In the Trial, that was horrific, but the book, The Trial. Anyway, I would definitely say I have not yet read enough Kafka to use the word Kafkaesque without those hearing me use it, having their eyes rolled so far back in their head that they roll all the way back around again. Anyway, that entire conversation between Carrie and Amy was really, really great, and especially the part, so yeah, misogyny, transphobia, Patrick Bateman-esque comments, like, it is so fucked up how little of an exaggeration it is to describe some of the hatred directed towards marginalized communities that it is to say that. Yeah. And yeah, I really like the emphasis on, so I blew it up. Metaphorically. Jesus fucking Christ. I love how dark this show gets. And and the point about, like, listen, it wasn't some big heroic thing, but it had to happen. And also talking about, self-acceptance and, how important it is to be who you really are, be your authentic self, and just, yeah. I think that brings us to the, let's see. Yeah, and then Amy notes. Oh, right. I love the part with, that's a window? I thought that was another TV. But yeah, I'm still gonna rent this place out for concert venues. Contact me for booking info, Are you ready, Tessa? And just fantastic performance and song and lyrics and the whole thing. And I think that does pretty much bring us to the really love the point made about, how America doesn't have a social safety net, but if you have a social safety net, that can make things a lot easier. That's such a big part of, leftism today, making sure you have community, you have a network. It's really important to fight back against individualism, a really toxic ideology that basically just serves to prop up the rich, and the rest of us are supposed to think, oh, they're just amazing, they're that, wonderful individual, just much, much better than the rest of us. And it has us thinking, it tries to convince us at least, that we ourselves should also somehow be able to get by as one person, as if anyone today does. Like, I'm not gonna pretend, like, I don't know, hypothetically, historically, or maybe in certain contexts, there are some, I don't know, if you crash a plane or something and you're alone there, yeah, you may have to survive on your own or something. But in society, no man is an island, or, woman for that matter. Peninsula, maybe, but not island. And yeah, the more we realize that, the more we appreciate that we have more in common. There's more that brings us together than keeps us apart. We have more in common with each other, those of us who are not rich, than we do with anyone rich. And that's something they really don't want us to realize, because when we stand together, we have a chance to hold them accountable for the awful things they do. Obviously, I'm not talking about violence. I mean, legally, democratically, we have to push for change. And I think that is, and here at the end, here near the end of the episode, we straight up have the actual, the lesson of the episode spelled out for the audience. Again, typical kids show. Other shows as well. But yeah. I think that pretty much covers... Oh, right. And the part where Mike is like, I am here to support you. Oh, and here are some sharp knives in case you have ideas. Like, Jesus Christ. Mike, I thought you were on another page about that, but yeah. And I think... Let's see. There's at least one more thing that I really wanted to make sure. I love that when it cuts to Cindy, right before Cindy moves, there's just I think it might actually be less than a second or at most 1 full second before the movement starts. And yeah, at first I was sitting there, the first time I watched it, I was sitting there thinking, Amy, please stop talking to this clearly inanimate object that has not answered you once. Like the 3 others that Amy talks to do respond back verbally, but then suddenly Cindy is moving and it's like, well, now I don't know anything anymore. I don't know what's real. And I guess that does bring us, let's see. What's the other thing there? There was a... No, yeah, actually, I think that is the entire episode. Yeah, the post-credits bit was also fantastic with the... especially because at first it does seem like, oh, TV, no, it's not a TV, it's a window. But then the whistling does start to change the way it's going. So again, I'm like, okay, I mean, it's a window, it's not a TV. That I feel confident about. But maybe it is trying to have sex with TV. Listen, this is a progressive channel. We don't kink shame. I'm not saying that a TV and a gust of wind from outside a window can't fuck. I'm just here to say I laughed my ass off at the bit in the episode.